Jared has a mean of 68 on his quizzes, with a standard deviation of 8. On his most recent quiz, he scored a 58. Is this unusual compared to how he usually performs on quizzes? And if you recall, there's multiple ways to see if something is considered unusual. But one of the methods that you've learned about is to see how many standard deviations away from the mean we are. If we're more than 2 standard deviations away, well, then we would consider that to be unusual. It's farther than normal. So how do we calculate how many standard deviations away we are? One way of doing this is just finding the z-scores. A z-score is a way of measuring how many standard deviations away we are. So let's recall that formula, which I showed on a previous problem, but it's also on the formula sheet. It's just we take our score, subtract the mean, and divide by the standard deviation. Well, in this case, we found that the mean was 68 and the standard deviation was 8. So this would be z is equal to our score, which was a 58, minus the mean, which is 68, divided by the standard deviation, which is 8. Calculating this out, we get that this first top part is going to be negative 10 over 8. And if we divide that out, we get negative 1.25. So recall what this z-score represents. This just means we scored 1.25 standard deviations below the average, below the mean. Now, how do we know it's below? Well, first, 58 is lower than 68, but also the fact that our z-score is negative tells us that we're below the mean. So, is that more than 2 standard deviations away? No, not quite. We're only 1.25 standard deviations away, so that doesn't seem very unusual. So going through these options, we see that it's going to be not unusual, so it can't be this, this, this. And we see because the z-score is more than 2 standard deviations away, nope. And so that leaves us with letter E, which says no, because the z-score is within 2 standard deviations away from the mean.